All right, let's talk about different weather conditions. Weather conditions can kind of help you decide if you want to get out there and hunt, how you want to get out there and hunt, and give you a better understanding of where the deer might be. Now, just because it's snowing outside, raining outside, hailing, just because there's a thunderstorm, just because it's hot or cold, does not mean that it is some sort of steadfast rule that deer will do this every single time. Okay. We're going to talk about just generalizations, but there are many exceptions to these rules. Okay. Hunting in the rain is one huge part of it. A lot of people don't like hunting in the rain. I'll tell you, I've had a lot of success hunting in the rain. If the rain stops, deer oftentimes like to come on out, and I've had success harvesting deer in several seasons right after the rain stopped. Okay, so think about what rain might do to a deer. Rain most likely will make a deer want to go find cover and bed down. Basically, just get out of the rain is what they're trying to do. They live in the wilderness. They don't live in living rooms like this. So when it rains, it's not as big of an effect on them as it is on us. Remember that. Rain can be your friend. It can help cover up your scent. It's really nice to go out and scout right before a rain, because right after you get out of there, your scent will be washed away. That's a really nice thing. I would tell you this: if you're going to hunt in the rain, hunt more in the light rain than a heavy rain. Hunting in a thunderstorm probably isn't a good idea, so I'm not going to tell you to do that. And I don't know if I've seen many deer when there's thunderstorms happening. So let's talk about heavy winds. If the wind is blowing really heavily, that means your scent can get carried faster. But if it's blowing and it's very blustery, that can mix up that scent and kind of cover it. If the wind is blowing heavy towards you, blowing fast, blowing hard towards you, in your face, away from the deer, it's going behind, and that wind is going to carry your scent behind you. That's not a bad idea. Now, the thing about wind is, if it is really windy, you might have a really hard time getting that shot off. And I would consider maybe not hunting when it's too windy if you think that your shot will be affected. We always want to make good ethical shots on these animals and provide them with the quickest death possible. When it comes to wind, another thing I have written right here is you can determine like where you want to sit based on wind and how that wind is blowing. If the wind is blowing fast, maybe you don't want to sit right on the edge of a food plot. Maybe you would like to sit down in a draw where you're kind of out of the wind. If it's really cold and windy, that might make your hunt really miserable. Hot weather. If you're in hot weather hunting, then you probably live in the South. And let me tell you something. I've hunted in the heat a lot. I've harvested deer when it's pretty hot outside. So I'll tell you, it's not necessarily, it's not going to kill your whole hunt. It's not the end of the world. But as a rule of thumb, if it's not hot usually, and then one day it's hot, deer might bed down. They're going to seek shade. They're going to seek water. That's going to help you determine where you want to hunt. You might want to hunt near a water source. You might want to hunt near a thicket. I don't know that a deer isn't going to go out and do the regular things that they normally would do, but as a rule of thumb, you hunt early morning, late evening. You'll be hunting the coolest times of the day, and your odds will probably be a little higher. All right, what about if it's really cold? I have had a lot of success seeing deer and harvesting deer in cold weather. Since I live in the South, when it goes from a 60 or 70 degree day to a 30 or 40 degree day, I tend to see a lot more deer. Those deer start running around, and that's when I see a lot of rut activity. But generally I've had a lot of success in the cold weather. I would tell people if it's cold, get out there and hunt. You can bundle up, you can wear 5 pairs of socks. I don't care what you do, but if it's cold, I would recommend to get out and hunt. Now, if it's below zero, if you're talking about, freezing temperatures, you're risking your life to go harvest a deer. That's going to be your risk to take. I'm not telling you to do something like that. I've hunted in freezing temperatures before and had no issue. So if you're prepared, it's not a big deal at all. And if you hunt north of here, basically anywhere outside the south, you've probably hunted in freezing temperatures before, and you probably understand that there's just certain measures you're going to need to take to ensure that your safety and your health is protected. But as cold weather relates to deer, you will oftentimes see during a cold snap deer movement pick up and rut activity start. You're talking about bucks chasing does. You're talking about does, running all over the place essentially. And it's kind of a fun time to be out there. So now let's talk about snow. Snow, depending on the environment that you live. Here in the South, snow would be not something that happens all the time. I don't necessarily think that it would stop the deer from moving, but it's not exactly the same type of. I wouldn't give the person the same advice that lives in the South that lives in Alberta, Canada, for example. Here's some universal truths about snow, though. If you do shoot a deer, tracking that deer, blood trailing that deer, will be a lot easier, most likely. You will be able to identify drops of blood, and you'll be able to see where that deer ran if there is a foot of snow on the ground, and all it is white drops and footprints in powder. You're going to follow that, and you're going to have a great time. Now, if there's so much snow on the ground that it's hard for you to move, that could mean that you are making tons of noise and alerting the woods of your presence. It's not something you want to do. So take into consideration how much snow's on the ground and if you're going to risk lighting up the woods with your presence.